Okay, it looks like Donald Trump has issued some kind of 90-day reprieve for his tax hikes, and 75 countries will be the recipients of that. He's going to baseline it at like 10%, which is lower than most of them were paying. And China is the only one who's still going to be, I think, up at like 125% to China. And everybody else apparently has contacted the government and said, hey, we want to make a deal. We want to talk to you. And these are people, in a lot of cases, who have treaties with the United States. So Trump is saying, hey, your treaty is not benefiting us. It's benefiting you alone, and we don't want no parts of it. And we're going to raise your tariffs and reciprocate. And I'm wondering now, is it a strategy that he's employing? Because I was at, God dang it, just before this story broke, I was beginning to lean toward senility and like, hey, is he kind of getting Biden-ish on us? But he seems to be speaking in clear thoughts and responding when other people ask him questions. Not like a person who's diminishing to that much. I mean, he's not the same Donald Trump he was probably in 2010, but he still is coherent. And I'm starting to go, well, dang, maybe he has a plan, because if you issue tax hikes to friends all over the globe, and 75 countries respond with, hey, we don't want no problems, what is it you want to do here? They're giving you the lead and the opportunity, but they're going to also have what they feel they can afford and deal with, and then we're going to respond and counter the offers. But when it comes down to it, it's going to be very interesting to see how this ends up, because that's 75 deals that are on the table that weren't on the table. So I really am looking forward to this, and finding out if we're gonna, as a country, split up over is that the right thing to do? Are we strong arming our friends? It's a real strange way of looking at it. Any of our allies around the world who have health care for their citizens without paying anything extra, just included in being a citizen in that country and your taxes or however they do it, then they have to understand that that's what we would like. That's what we'd like to push for. Who wouldn't? And take it out of the area of profits and losses for healthcare. It should only be gains and no losses in healthcare, and gains for the people who need the healthcare. But anyway, the clip we're going to get in today is very interesting, because it just shows the kind of power that a president of the United States wields. And it's the kind of power that we never really been aware of, because none of them ever wanted to flex like that. They fight against each other, and you think, if he just had a little more power. No, they got it. They just play open-handed and slap box. Trump's finally balled his fist up and hit somebody, and they don't like it. They're like, oh, hell nah. And I don't like the amount of manipulation that's going on from either side. I think that's the dirtiest part of this whole thing. And that's why it's very important that we all stay engaged, so that we don't get manipulated into supporting the wrong team, or supporting the right team but for the wrong reason. We need to have a clear understanding of why we're exercising our time and donating our thoughts to this stuff. So without further ado, we're going to go on and enjoy this clip together, and I'll be popping back in and see what you guys think.
All right, let's get back to that breaking news from the White House. President Trump announcing a 90-day pause on all reciprocal tariffs as part of the social media post. It's a 90-day pause on tariffs except for China. This is what the president posted online just now. I'm hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States. Actually, let's get to the press secretary. She is talking right now. Let's listen in.
From around the world reach out to President Trump and his team here at the White House to negotiate better trade deals for the American worker. We have been overwhelmed with the amount of requests from countries around the world. I'll let the secretary speak to that. We will continue with the tailor-made negotiations that I spoke about yesterday. In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff. The secretary here has been a huge part of the president's trade team, of course, and will continue to lead these negotiations moving forward, to look out for the American worker, which is always President Trump's goal. So I'll kick it over to our great Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
Good, thank you. And we saw the successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. It has brought more than 75 countries forward to negotiate. It took great courage for him to stay the course until this moment. And
heck yeah. I mean, to think that 75 of the countries that he hit with the reciprocal tax came forward and was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, I mean, to think that it had that response, it's kind of shocking. I really am interested to see how this looks going forward and what kind of deals we rehash out and where we end up in this. As far as I don't think we're going to sacrifice any of our friendships over this stuff. It is what it is. Hopefully they'll understand as far as economics. If we can, have a clear understanding of how the world works, and being $37 trillion in debt is not going to be beneficial to us or the citizens of this country. And if they are our allies, then they understand we got to tighten up our belt and do what we got to do. Nobody else has a problem letting us know when they have issues or when they don't have it or when they can't do it. And we're being the a superpower in the world. I'm not going to say the superpower in the world, because when you have a country that is as close to you or as equal to you or even superior to you in some areas like China is, the globe has to be dealt with and with kid gloves and handled and looked at in a different way. And I believe that the time has come when the United States and China need to sit down and reorganize the way they deal with each other. And because you have a capitalistic society and they have a communistic society, it doesn't mean that you have to be at each other's throat. That's why you're in China and you're in America, because you get to have the kind of government that you want for your people and that your people accept you implementing on them. But anyway, I think that with Trump exercising the ability to basically throw out some crazy number that people are like, yikes, we don't want to have to deal with that. They're thinking of cigars and coffee and wine and tea and clothing and all the things that we get from all over the world through our trade. But so much of that stuff, furniture, used to be built right here in America. To think to build a big old desk or a china cabinet and it be cheaper to build it and ship it, something that big, to the United States than to build it and have it trucked here. It's incredible to believe that, but God dang it. Our prices and our wages have gone up, and our wages have gone up because our housing has gone up. Everything has gone up, and our wages haven't gone up to the point of where they should be, or we really be in trouble. I mean, where we are right now is considered a lot of money for the world markets, but for living here in the United States, especially if you live on one of the coasts or one of the big cities like Boston or Chicago, or, it gets pretty pricey, unfortunately. And for people to have to think about and navigate that. And then you got this guy, Trump, doing what he's doing. Let's pray that it works out for the best of the country. And that's all we can do, is pray for the country and for us to progress, and not think too much about Democrat, Republican right now, because the Democrats are in a position to do nothing but obstruct and cause chaos. So we need to put them aside, really for real, put them aside and pay attention to what's going on here. To have 75 countries willing to come back to the table. Some of the government agencies that Trump has eliminated, I wish he hadn't. The Department of Education is not one of them. I'm cool with that one. But some of the other ones I'm not. But, that's just my personal opinion. Overall, I do like some of the departments, parts of the agency being, of the government being gone, demolished. But, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I don't think that the government should be in business just to employ people, just to employ people. Don't put people over something that they shouldn't be there for in a government capacity, and it's coming off the taxpayer's dime. Do that kind of stuff in private industry, and don't make your private industry be dependent upon our federal dollar, meaning our tax money. That ain't right. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know. I just feel like to have the United States, as bullying as it appears to be, as what it's always been like for me to envision the United States as always being the leader, always being the aggressive, always saying what they want with little to no negotiation, just pretty much move over there or move over there. This is the way it's going to be. And then, like when Trump came in and he started talking about how the United States is going to take over Gaza, and then build condos there. So it's like, that's somebody's home. You just gave Israel and assisted Israel and all the military firepower to demolish where those people had to are called home, was their home. And then to talk about it like that in those terms, that's just so American like. And no matter who's in the White House, we just there's a both sides are so close, but yet so far apart. But to probably other people around the world, we probably don't look like we're as far apart as we think we are. But to other people, they probably feel the brunt of America in their lives, and they don't even live over here. They can feel it though, the effect. It's like a gravitational pull from this country and some of the other countries who would orbit us. I guess that's the way to put it.
What we have ended up with here, as I told everyone a week ago, in this very spot, do not retaliate and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them, and China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Now, I'm tripping here because I hope this 10% for 90 days is like a 90-day negotiation period. And when we come out of that negotiation period, if we haven't come to some agreement, then I guess we will assign the tariff, and it is what it is, unless they can extend negotiations with us. But I like the feeling of empowerment. I like the change in the policy that has taken decades to get to this. This isn't something that's just happened, which means it's probably a lot more painful than any of us realize. It was just given to us in such small doses. But had they given it to us, in its proper amounts and the way they should have, we would have felt it and hopefully been jarred awake. But this is what it's going to take when this kind of stuff happens. But Donald Trump has to be serious in working on that deficit. We need to see what is going to take place as far as that deficit going from 37 trillion going in the downward direction, because if not, that's just something to just distract us, and we just don't need that right now. We have two parties to choose from, and right now I'm feeling pretty shaky about both of them, and for quite some time I have. But it's like, honestly, that both of them together make up the United States government. And we have to have some kind of hope or some kind of belief that they're going to do the right thing most of the time. And it's getting to the point where I'm starting to wonder about that. Are they really trying to do the right thing most of the time?
Ed, go ahead.
Secretary, thank you for doing this. Let me ask you three quick things, if I could, just for the sake of clarity, because the markets are open and they're wondering. First of all, Mexico and China, are they part of this 10% universal?
China.
Mexico and Canada, are they part of the 10%?
Yes.
Okay. Second, given then that you have the rest of the world essentially calling it, it's not China, is this now just all about China?
Well, it's about bad actors, and what we will see is some of the very early countries are.
I have to interject one thing. There's a difference in a bad actor and a bad negotiator. Now, if China is done something that violates a treaty, a policy, or an international law of trade, then yes, they're a bad actor. But if China got down at that negotiating table and came out on top, came out with more concessions than the United States did in that trade agreement, then the United States is a bad negotiator. You cannot be mad because they outmaneuvered you and didn't cheat.
China's neighbors, that we're going to see, I'm seeing Vietnam today, Japan's at the front of the queue, South Korea, India. So we will see. And as I've repeatedly said, and President Trump has been saying it for years, China is the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world.
And he means imbalance as in their exports far exceed their imports, which is what a country should want. You should want to be able to pretty much take care of the homeland within the homeland and have a really robust export market going on. That'd be the perfect thing for them. For us, it might be the most imbalanced. It might look monstrous, but for them it isn't. It's really a well-oiled machine when you look at it, and they're gonna have to fight for it because Trump looks like he's gonna prod and poke them and see if he can get them off their game. I hope he does, but we have allowed China to get to a point where they are in a position where we can't just slap them around, and that 125% tariff might have to go higher and higher, and it still might not be enough for make them reverse course or their position. They may never get in that line of those other 75 countries that want to talk and do business for their own benefit or for their own comfort level or for their own money. It may be their existence for all I know, but some of those countries rely on the United States heavily. China doesn't as heavily, except in the unreciprocal way where we are the consumer and they're the merchant. And if we can change that, I think we'll be okay. But that's the one that counts. In every other way, it's not nation threatening. In the way it is where we start racking up debt to them, where we are their big consumer, where we can't even get a plastic spoon over here unless it comes from China. Some of those things need to be changed. Some of those manufacturing facilities do need to be returned, but we have passed that time for the most part. We will never lead the world in that way again because we can't afford to pay. And I know the Democrats plan on bringing back the cheap labor in order to have those things through the immigrants. That's just, I know it. Everybody knows it. That's just something that we have to keep saying. So when it happens, don't act shocked. That's what the plan is, and it can't be that way because it'll just displace the country and put us in a place where we don't want to be or need to be. We need to stick to our Constitution if that's what we're going to do, but we need to deploy it and implement it evenly and fair-handedly, and that's what hasn't been happening. But this right here, you guys, it lets you know what kind of power that president has. Donald Trump is a powerful person, and he knows he's a powerful person, and he's flexing it by just speaking words, and markets are just plummeting and then soaring, and then he just has that kind of power in his tone, in his rhetoric, in his policies, in his executive orders. And the rest of the world is like listening with bated breath. They're like, oh my God, what's he going to do next? But he's also, on this hand, as of this last announcement, letting the business owners and the corporations in America know, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'm just letting these people know we ain't taking no shit. I'm going to drop this down to 10%, which is lower than it was. Everything's going to be business as usual. Prices are actually going to go down for the next 90 days. And then when we get done with this permanent deal, they'll stay around there. They might bump up a little, but we're gonna get a handle on this. Because he promised immediate drops. And that was an unrealistic promise. But if he can give it to you in 90 days, 120 days, people will feel it quick and they'll be like, wow. We do need to start going to the store and feeling some relief, but the relief can't be put on that credit card. The deficit is something that he has spoke on too much to not do anything about. So he ain't getting off the hook with this guy if he goes in there and thinks that black popcorn is just gonna be like, oh yeah, he did this and he nah. Those grocery store prices hit hard and should be addressed. And if he has a unique way, like he said, of getting that reined in, then I'm all for it.
And they are the biggest source of the U.S. trade problems. And indeed, they are problems for the rest of the world, because what we've seen is that as the U.S. announced the tariff wall last week, many of those goods have already started flooding into Europe.
So as you see it now, this trade war is China versus the rest of the world.
Well, I'm not calling it a trade war, but
Yeah. And if I don't call it a trade war, then it isn't one. Bullshit. You can call it whatever you want. And when this kind of stuff is happening, we don't do this, and they don't either. It's a trade war. It ain't a heated one yet because no one's felt the effects of any of this stuff. It's mostly just a bunch of talking back and forth and markets swinging all over the place. But yeah, it's gonna eventually come to that point where the rubber hits the road, and we're gonna know, if this is a real trade war or are they just over there sparring around with each other. Hopefully the planet can settle back in, but it has to settle back in the right order. And the United States of America, if we consider ourselves a major superpower, we got to take better care of our people. And we haven't been doing a very good job. I don't know who these people are, who's negotiating these. They keep talking about Elon Musk and Doge, and he wasn't elected. Well, who are these people who's negotiating these trade deals? Were they elected? And do they know what they're doing? Because progressively it's gotten worse and it's accumulated, and this is where we are. Something has to be done. I am going to keep saying, I don't know if Trump has the right answer. I don't. But something has to be done. You cannot say what we've been doing is the right answer.
I am saying that China has escalated, and President Trump responded very courageously to that, and we are...
That sounds like that old school, I dare you to knock this stick off my shoulder. And China was like, psh, and that was it. Because you're going to run into some people. I've had folks, I put this stick on the shoulder and the stick didn't fall. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I thought. But some people, before it even rests on their shoulder, it's off. They ready to go. You be like, oh, shit, it's going to be what it is. China is obviously not going to let you put a stick on their shoulder and dare anybody to knock it off. They have become emboldened because they are realistically a world superpower with many, if not all of the capabilities that the United States has. Maybe just not on the scale in some areas, but damn sure not the person you want to go getting into a fight with if you could avoid it. And I believe that Trump is going to try to negotiate our way to a better footing on economic deals and trade, but he's also going to try to strengthen us militarily, or at least let the rest of the world know we got this in China. And that may not be possible, but we're about to find out. That deficit that we have is going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. They wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't. But for anybody to just keep pushing it on the back burner with no real intention of paying it off is the same type of person who would pretend they're trying to do something to save the planet and the environment, and they're really just worried about the end of their life and nothing beyond that. And that's unfortunate, knowing that you have a lineage, you have grandkids, you have people who are going to be left here when you're not here anymore, and you got to hope that they have the best quality of life that they can, and not that it just made it to the end of your life and now it's like you don't care anymore. That's what it seems like in some ways to me.
We're going to work on a solution with our trading partners.
And if I could just, excuse me, Raquel, if I could just add to what the secretary said. Many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here.
Anybody reading that bullshit ass book? Now, the art of the deal and what he's doing, might be that kind of stuff. Hopefully, the other countries, our allies, have read it and they'll know how to get in there and deal with him. But it does seem like a reality show, and he's like gonna vote these countries off the island if they don't, follow the proper protocol to come up to the top. Well, Finland, you did a good job, but Sweden over here, I mean, you can't turn the world into a reality show. Or can you? Is he? Right before our eyes, this is his history. This is historic things. And he's using techniques that, where did he get them from? Do they work? Will they work? Is it better than what we were doing? Was what we doing so blinding because it was comfortable that we just couldn't see the harm in it because it was so comfortable? Like heart disease, you just slowly slip into it, or dementia, just slowly and gradual. It's not just something that hammers you unless you hit a pole or something, but other than that, it's gradual. So yeah, maybe we need to be snapped out of this, and maybe Trump ain't the way, you guys, but what we were doing ain't the way. And we had to be at least smart enough and brave enough and have enough love for our folks who are going to come behind us to set it up better than it may have been set up for us. Our folks gave us one thing that cannot be denied. Our parents gave us the walk in them shoes. They walked that walk. They went down that path. So nobody can tell us that oh, no, you just said, no, we're not staying any course of nothing any more than we have. So no one should expect or ask us to. Democratic Party, you got a lot of explaining to do. A lot.
Tried to say that the rest of the world would be moved closer to China when in fact we've seen the opposite effect. The entire world is calling the United States of America, not China, because they need our markets, they need our consumers, and they need this president in the Oval Office to talk to them. And
that's real truth right there. The people are pulling toward the United States because the United States is the one throwing tariffs out there on them. Now, if China was to do that, I'm sure they got a bunch of countries that would do the exact same thing, line up. Oh shit, we get this, we get this, we get that. The arm wrestling match is going on over the United States and China, and who can roll forward or on forever without the other. They're testing their ability to be independent. And that's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know if the United States can do it right now. I know we have the capability, but just to switch, from AC to DC power, like, I don't think we're ready for that yet. We're not ready to go online with that one, but China may not be either, China is a huge trading partner to us, going both ways. Of course, they export more than they import. We all know that, but I think they need to sit down and recalculate this as well. Trump may stumble into something and look like a genius by accident. I don't know if he understands the amount of power in his voice when he sees the mark. To think that Donald Trump, this is from him, thinking that he would ever have the ability to make a news statement and the markets tumble or the markets soar, or I mean, just to have that kind of power and influence from the position that you're sitting in, the president of the United States. If he has a handle on that, and now he's like going, oh my God, I knew it was going to be significant, but this is like something. And I think it's going to cause him to probably be more bold. Hopefully not, but it's gonna be a ride. And I hope that we all come out of it better. And if not, I hope we come out of it smarter, with a better understanding of what our votes do and who we really should be voting for, and that they better start coming out with some things in these campaigns and sticking to them. Because some campaigns, we've been letting people get by without even making any pledges at all. They just want to tell you that they're going to rescue you from that horrible other party. Well, we need more than that. We need more than just to be rescued from another party. We're not that afraid of them that you need to come and grab us and take us up. We'll stay with that other party before we feel like we have to be rescued. But we need to find out which party is going to give us the best deal. Everybody's doing all this negotiating and talking about increasing the quality of lives, that's what we need to think about ourselves as citizens. And we don't need all of the government to do all of that stuff for us. Some of it we're going to have to stand up and do. And with that, folks, like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.